Do you do any mountain climbing? No, really. You know, little children. Other falls.
You know, it's a fight every time. They'd rather sit on that don't know clear all day every day. Spend my 2 feet east.
As long as it's not just my kids.
No, it's Great Home, you know, the normal ones. The Aberfalls, Great Home.
Oh. Was there a lot of yeet when you went to less because
not one chassis, not one yeet.
Hello.
I didn't see one yeet in that.
Wow, I once went there a couple of years ago and I felt like we were more.
Is that why I went a second time, Sally?
Get me out of here.
Still, we can't compare going there meeting Robert Yox or we're up to Memdala Dom for 7-8 lines from the top. Why is it different lulav? We shake lulav all 7 days nowadays. Zecher to be sabigdosh. Even though we shouldn't shake more than 1 day, we do zecher lemikdosh. How many times do we do that? Only in the Shana Rabbah. We only do it once. And in base Midrash, how many times do they do it? 7. So what's going on? Anyway, you're yotze with Avov and the lulav. So he said to him, no. It's because of the lulav. It's not because of the Avov. If you say to me that you have to lift it up twice, that means you pick up your abdomen, put them down, pick them up again. We see that people never do that. We should be not tell of din shiva. Zecher lemikdash. Avov do our bottom. We should do our bottom. Of din le shiva zecher lemikdash. Because we do our bottom. We only do 1 day. Oh, the was going to ask even more than that. Is the man who says such a thing that Avov is do our bottom. Nobody holds actually the Avov. The Avov nowadays is a minhag. But it's a zecher lemikdash to the time when it was devaisa. Everything is to abundant today. The lulav is to abundant zecher lemikdash. The avov is zecher lemikdash. We only do 1 of the avov and 7 of the lulav. Similar man who says this abundant. Imei malav sholom ave nochal tzif. Shtaim ave is plural. Achas lulav achas lemikdash. Ilo abundant achas gemir lo tzalach lemesh mistina which is the right. So Toba v'asi ba oma b'yich mishum echad ish bikas beis cholson. The name of the Chunyo lived in Beis Cholson. Esen etios. This again we talked about once in that. I don't speak about it long now. Before Shemitah, you're not allowed to work the fields. But if you've got 10 plants which are growing in a specific area, 50 amos by 50 amos, and they're all exactly apart from each other the same distance, then even though normally you'd be forbidden from working from the field, already either from Pesach or from Shavuos, here you're allowed to work all the way till Shemitah. That's the halacha of the 10 plants. The first Mishnah in Shviz. Avova, the mitzvah of Avova on the Mizbeach, this is a man put on the Mizbeach, halacha l'meshvisina, it's Tevaisa, halacha l'meshvisina, it's what Tevaisa. Everyone's this should do over lulav, this the ikiminato big bullet. Lulav, even when the base is not standing, we have a mitzvah natur for 1 day. So therefore, Avdina shiva zecher lemikdash. Avova the rest ikim natur big bullet, and Avdina shiva zecher lemikdash. Avova natur nowadays is nothing because we're going to be mikdash. So therefore, we only do 1 day zecher lemikdash because by doing 1 day, we're showing that we're doing something zecher lemikdash because we do our bottom. There's nothing. There's nothing. It's only we do our bottom. Mashenkin lulav, if we'd only do it 1 day, it would be meaningless zecher lemikdash. Why? Because minater there's a mitzvah for 1 day, so we have to do something more to show that we're doing a zecher lemikdash. So what can we do more than 1 day? So we can't do 2 because like funny. We'll do all 7. Is that clear? Now, Avova nowadays there's no mitzvah at all in Hatir because the mitzvah was to put them on the mizbeach, but no mizbeach. So in Hatir there's nothing left. By doing 1 day the Shana Rabbah, we're doing zecher lemikdash of the Avova. Mashenkin the lulav, even nowadays there's a mitzvah in Hatir to shake 1 day. Is everywhere around the world. So therefore, 1 day is minater. We want to do zecher lemikdash that in the mikdash they did it for 7 days. If we only did it 1 day nowadays, like we did the Shana Rabbah, we wouldn't actually be doing anything zecher lemikdash because they were already minater with muchav to do 1 day. To do it zecher lemikdash, we have to do more than 1 day. So we do it all 7. Okay. A Kohen Baal Mum generally is not allowed to go into areas which he swore is not allowed to go. And here he is allowed to. That means what happened was they would go around the Mizbeach with the Avava. That Shlokish allowed him to go in, even a Baal Mum, because he felt that for the mitzvah of putting the Avavas around the Mizbeach, you're allowed to do it. Who said such a thing? The one I haven't understood. Whoever said there's even such a mitzvah to take Avavas around the Mizbeach. Or you himself Abichnan said this halacha. That means, what do we know who says this? You yourself said Salach al-Meshmi Sinai. Who told you they have to walk around with the Avavas? Maybe all you have to do is lean them. And what's the difference? If all you have to do is lean them against the Mizbeach, So then the halacha would be, there's a limited amount of space. So you're going to have a limited amount of kohanim. Why would you use a kohen Baal Mum for the area within if you could use a normal kohen and therefore use the Baal Mum for the outside, which is much better? If the mitzvah is to walk around with that, you've got no choice because every kohen's got a mitzvah to walk around. And therefore, even the Baal Mum would be allowed to. But if the whole mitzvah is just a minute against the Mizbeach, we told you. Furthermore, even if you say there's a mitzvah to walk around, but maybe the mitzvah is only for Tzmim. Who told you that Bali Mumin is well entitled to such thing? So therefore, the Gemara is Teicha with Shlokish's words that Bali Mumin is allowed to go around. So this holds that according to Shlokish, all Kohanim are allowed, even those, for example, are Succa, even those, for example, have got long hair, because it means more than 30 days not a haircut. Because Tesis holds that according to Shlokish, they permitted for this mitzvah walking on that rover every kind of Kohen was possible. Okay, it's not. Rabbi Yechon Moshe ben Levi, Chad Omar Rava Yesoy Neviim was established by Neviim, Chad Omar Rava Minhag Neviim. Now we're not discussing the mitzvah of the Beis Hamikdash, even though more for a second thinks so. We're really discussing the mitzvah after the Beis Hamikdash. Because what we do nowadays in the Shana Rabbah, is it a Minhag Neviim or Yesoy Neviim? What's an afkimina? And this is one of the most famous Rashis in Succa. Is an afkimina is you do not make a brach. You don't make a brach on the Minhag Neviim, only the Yesoy Neviim. Tesis on the base, the very very long Tesis, the whole page basically, discusses this principle that anything which is a minig nevim, you do not make a bracha. Tesis questions many of the things that we do, most famously of all, by the Yosef's got many shuvas about it, is halal on Rosh Chodesh is only a minig. And every one of us says, Hashem says halal. And in fact, Tesis is reluctant to make that bracha, by the Yosef himself shouldn't. The point is, because it's only a minig nevim. But that is the shaila, is a minig nevim or yisod nevim. We paskin, minig nevim. None of us have made a bracha, as far as I'm aware. Ever we don't talk about it on the Shana Rabbah, on the Shanas, you don't make a bracha hanging there Shanas because only a minute of them not Yisod Nevim. Says the Gemara, Tistayam Dabichnu Dama Yisod Nevim. He said this is Yisod Nevim. The Mavom Abichnu Navava Yisod Nevim. Mavom was Abichnu was Yisod Nevim. Tistayam. Therefore, it is indeed yours Yisod Nevim. Omna Zela Mavom. Miom Abichnu Hach Dabichnu says only Yisod Nevim. Om Abichnu from the Chinish because it's close less than it is. Oh, it's a Chamaim Aloch Lemesh Sinai. It's Aloch Lemesh Sinai. Meaning it's Min HaTorah. What would you answer? I hope you've got this answer clear because if you haven't, it's meaning.
There's afterwards.
Oh, this Rabbi Yechon says referring to Beis Hamikdash, but about Mizbeach. He was talking about for some reason the Gemara only comes start at the end. Many times the Gemara suggests other answers. One says he was stunned for a moment and he was silent. But and then he came up with the answer. That originally that was then they forgot it during the Chorban. Of the Baal and then they came back with it. These words of a lot to be said about it. But Rashi tells us, says a very fascinating story. Rabbi Yechon lived where? Anybody know? No, it's so. How do they live in Eretz Yisrael? Because he wrote Talmud Yerushalmi, which was written in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yechon lived in Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Yechon thought that he said to his Talmidim, I thought that Torah is really by us. Why did I think that Torah is by me? Because we lived in Eretz Yisrael and we never went into Golus. Since we never went into Golus, therefore we've got the traditions. I found out that it's not. It's really Torah in Babel. How did he find that out? Well, something called Rav Kahana, amazing story. Rav Kahana killed somebody in Babel for he had to. Well, there's more in Babasa. We're not going to go into the details. We'll get there. What happened was, but the government didn't like it, so he had to run away to Eretz Yisrael. Came to Eretz Yisrael. His Rebbe Rav said to him, spend a few months listening to Rabbi Yechon before you answer and before you question. What happened was, Rav Kahana didn't question. Rabbi Yechon was looked down upon, eventually sent him to the back of the room, and Rav Kahana had a scar on his face. Rabbi Yechon thought that he was laughing at him, so he said something not nice. Rav Kahana died. Afterwards, they told of Rabbi Yechon that no, that it wasn't only a scar, so he brought back to life. And then Kahana asked him question after question after question because he felt that Rabbi Yechon had been too mizaz. Every time he asked him a question, eventually Rabbi Yechon realized that Kahana was so great, he would ask Kahana his own questions. But when all that happened, he said to his Talmidim, I realized that I thought Torah was over here in Eretz Yisrael, but really it's in Babel. But actually asked the question, why indeed was it in Babel? In the end of the day, Rabbi Yechon's logic should be correct. What's Rashi answer? Anybody know? A famous incident that Yechonia was taken into Galus 11 years. If you talk about Geras Esther, 11 years before the Churban was destroyed. The Nebuchadnezzar wanted to destroy Yerushalayim. So what he did was he took all the Talmidei Chacham out of Eretz Yisrael and took them to Babel. And in that way, he thought to himself, well, now it's so will never succeed. But what happened was, all the time when sat in Babylon and built big yeshivas. When the Golus actually occurred 11 years later, and the Yidden all came into the Golus, there was already major yeshivas already set up. Since that happened, Tehillim and Babel flourished a very lot because the Talmidei Chachamim arrived there before anybody else. The Palmon speaking that one of the struggles of America was that the Chachamim arrived later. First, there was on. But the fact is that Babel was unique in Eretz Yisrael. Says the Gemara, since we see that Torah was so special in Eretz Yisrael, in Babel, so how could it be that they forgot it? We just said that they forgot it and then we established it. How could it be? So this got a whole different malach in what exactly happened. This is what loy kash top and down the base, as you want to say, kam the migdash kam gvolim. In the base of Migdash, when the base was standing, it was alach l'mishvi Sinai. Kam gvolim was only afterwards. Omar Abami, Avova, this is the Avova Vishan Avava. Tzvicha shir, there has to be a measure. The Gemara tells us what the measure is. Bein tells you if they atzma, you can only take it on its own. You don't take it to other things. In other ways, you can't be yoitz with avov the lulav. Bein the give them a man and tells you if they atzma, pshita then other ways avov lulav. If you have to take it on its own, of course you can't be yoitz avov the lulav because it's not on its own. It says what says the same animal you might have thought that if you picked up again. You might have thought that's only if you don't pick it up twice, it's okay. Kamash malon. That not, and that's the halacha of Shulchan Aruch that if a person doesn't have his shanas, he can't say to himself, okay, I won't bother, it costs a lot of money, it costs about £3-4. I just pick up my lulav again. No, mashma or not. That person can be yotze, does not need to buy himself a new lulav. Miss out the back is, this is what Marshal says. So we come to shiur, how big should it be? 3 sticks, 3 moist sticks. The Rashi and Tosafos have an argument as to whether they have to be each one 1 leaf or 3 leaves. That means each avava branch has to be 3. Now, there has to be 3 branches. Does each one have to have 1 leaf or 3 leaves? It's machlikus rishon. Even 1 leaf with 1 branch, 1 stick. The Gemara haven't understood. You take 1 leaf from one hand, 1 branch another. The problem with that being is a leaf is so small that nobody will notice that you've taken anything. Even 1 leaf from 1 branch, that's how we pass them. That you don't need 5, you only need 1, and you only need 1 with 1 leaf. The point is, though, that the Arizal says they should take 5. It's a Kabbalistic thing, and nowadays we're more mahadza to stick as nice as we can. But the halacha, the strictest sense of the halacha is that 1 stick with 1 leaf is good enough. Omar Evu. Evu was the father of Rav. I was telling for the Rav Tzaddik. I say, first, I brought a Rav in front of him. Shokel chovit. So again, I pointed to yesterday. The Rashi holds chovit means shake. This says, Rambam says bang. For loy boich, he didn't make a bracha. Why didn't he make a bracha when he banged those shook the Avavas? Because some minig devim who I will be Chizkiah. They thought it was only a minig, not it's only a minig stuff. You don't make a bracha. I will be Chizkiah. They brought it to Rav. I will Chizkiah with the grandsons of Rav. By the way, just fast, I find it interesting. Ivu was the father of Rav. Rav had a grandson called Ivu. It's one of the places you see that they used to name after their grandparents, great grandparents. Somebody just told me that he had a great grandfather, means his own great grandfather, which means for his son be a great grandfather. And he had a big god that he wanted to call after. And he went to the Samadan to Racharov, call after your great grandfather. Family comes very interesting, that's quite. It's a mitzvah. So what happens is, so you see, Abu was a grandson of Rav, who was called after his great grandfather. I saw Avov like the Rav. They brought Avov in front of Rav to the grandfather. Chovit because some minute the woman was only a minute. Now, since we mentioned Abu, the father of Rav, we mentioned a few more statements from him. Have a given the Kaveh of Los Tzaddik. Also the Kaveh Gav. A person came in front of him. And this is to do with Shemitah. I have villages, meaning I own a village, a few villages, and I own all the people inside it. Those days you could own an entire state with the people inside it. Kamaya Isli, and I also own vineyards. Zisaya Isli, and I also own olive groves. But also if they cry, so when Kashkashim Kamaya, they hoe, they dig in their vineyards. And then they eat the olives as payment. I mean, instead of getting wages from me, I've got 3 things. I own people, I own vineyards, and I own olive groves. The people that I work for, my workers, they work in the vineyard and then eat in the olive groves for payment. Orich or loy orich. Is that right or not right? The Orich points out, it didn't say mutter awesome. Orich means, is it proper? Is it the right thing to do or not? We'll come to this in a second. Omalei loy orich, it's not correct. Have a shoving clay balls and he left immediately. The Orich points out, he left immediately to tell his workers to stop doing it. Oma, Kadua Vesu Dayoyu Ba'evo, Ba'evo Hadu Abo Mishanin. I have been living for 40 years in this land. I've never met anybody Mahalech walking Ba'ochen de Soknon that go in correct ways, Kadain, like this person. Eva, the father of Bar, was very, very disposed. The Ochne explains 2 points. One is that he immediately got the halacha, he immediately went to stop it, and later came back to ask what should he do next. The second thing is he asked, is it correct or not? Because halacha lemaisa, it is mutter. Why is it mutter? We're going to see the problem is you're not allowed to do business with your food. But the Gemara Shulchan Aruch asks that you are allowed to indirectly benefit from it. For example, you can say to people, by the way, I've got an orange grove. If you want a birthday present, come and help yourself. Or if workers help themselves to food in a way where you've not specified before that this is part of your wages, they just take it as part of their wages, that is okay. The problem is over here, it was done in such a public way, Abel felt it was no good. So what should I do? Olives, to the poor. Poor people are always in darkness, either because they can't afford candle, or because they're always aspiring for like to get out of the situation. To those who dig in the vineyard. You're allowed to dig in vineyards, but you're not allowed to dig in the vineyards. On the tashtim and the sack, you're not allowed to remove stones. It's very interesting. It comes to the Shemitah, you're allowed to build on Shemitah, you're allowed to build a house. You're not allowed to remove stones from a field in order to clear the field that next to you should be able to plow easier. What happens if you want to build a house? So you're collecting stones from the field, and in that way, you're clearing it. So that's the whole Mishnah in Shemitah, what to do. It depends really what your main intention. Okay. There are 2 kinds of digging. There's to close off the holes. Sometimes the roots get revealed, and if they remain revealed, the tree dies. So you have to cover it with soil. And the other one is to make the tree healthy and grow better. And for that, you dig up new holes. One of the principal halachas of Shemitah is that anything that makes sure that the trees do not die is permitted. It's a very, very important halacha. They're allowed to, for example, where they have vineyards, where if they don't water them the entire summer, those vineyards will die. The halacha is anything which is going to be to preserve. That's the word. To preserve is permitted. To make enhance or to make grow is permitted. Not allowed to walk in the Shabbos more than 3 pasos. That's only to go to your house. If you're going on the journey and you're going to a host, so what happens is you take the food with you because you don't know if the person has any food for you. So the whole problem of walking on the Shabbos 3 pasos is that you might get no food there. That's only if you're coming home and they're not aware that you're coming. But if you're carrying with your food with you, it's okay. Says the Gemara, even to your own house, you're not allowed to walk 3 pasos, because when you walk to your own house, there might not be enough food. And Rashi adds, you'll get angry with your family members for not having food. Rashi from Rashi, that part of the problem is the anger. There was such a story with me. The cheapest food in those days was kastas, there was fish, fried in its own oil and flour, and even that they never had. Mishnah discusses a great length. A few points just because halacha l'maisa. In the older days, anybody know how far you could travel in a day? How far could you travel in a day? We did go back to the beginning of Sachim. 10 pass. We could do 10 pass in a day. So here the Gemara says, don't do more than 3 pass on Erev Shabbos. Says Mishnah Berurah, 3 pass is a third of a day. Says Mishnah Berurah, if you're going in a wagon or something, then you're allowed to go much more than 3 pass, because you're allowed to go the equivalent of a third of a day traveling. Says Mishnah Berurah, the Maisa, that if the people know that you are coming, so then there's no problem over here of that there will be no food, then you're allowed to travel more than 3 pass. Furthermore, if you've traveled and you've arrived to a place where it's uncomfortable to stay, then you're also allowed to travel 3 pass. Why? Because since where you're going to be is uncomfortable, you might as well go home where you'll get more comfort. So that's just very simple. You shouldn't travel more than a third of a day, and Mishnah says the third of the day begins from the beginning of the day. So if you travel, you have to wait up to a few hours, and then you want to travel, you're not allowed to anymore. But there are certain colors. One is if the people know that you're coming, or if the place that you are in is uncomfortable, then you are allowed to travel. The Shmuel concludes all these halachas, and so many halachas, that you shouldn't start a long journey after Chatzos, etc. The Shmuel says, but all of this, you should be careful. It's how many times it says to you that you've got a long, long time. The person has to be careful of this. Let's just get to the Mishnah. It's very easy. Mishnah They would spread out the lulovim for the next day on the roof of the itztava. The itztava was like a bench which was around the entire Harabais, and on it there was a roof to protect people from the sun. So they put it on top of the roof. Put on the roof. You're going to dry them out. The next day, the lulovim. On the top of the actual bench. It had double benches. It was one bench in front of another. There was 2 rows of benches on the entire base. This is top. This says an interesting thing. That the one Pesachim talks about that they put loaves of bread to tell people when they need to burn the chametz. And the Tana would say that time, the same person said in front of Nachman that they put it on the bench. He said, why? They put it on the bench? You put it on the roof because you want people to be able to see it. So I don't understand this person. When he comes to Abba Midiv, he says, put it on the roof and Midiv should be on the bench. When he comes to the chametz on the Pesach, you want everybody to know, he says, put it on the bench, and he says, put it on the roof. Answer stays a very straightforward answer. And what happened was, he made a mistake once. So Nachman corrected him. Once he corrected him, so then when he heard the next Mishnah, he understood that, he remembered the Nachman's correction, and then that way, he went to do the other way around and get the next Mishnah. And then Nachman had to correct him again. I hope it's not so complicated. Okay, we're up to the Mishnah, Mrs. Avova,